Hello everyone, what a wonderful day to finally show you our roadmap. Thanks again for the alpha, for your feedback from it. It is directly affecting what I'm going to show you today. I know you probably are already scouring over everything, trying to get as much information as possible. No worries, we will release all this in a visually much more appealing form very, very soon so that you can see all of it, keep track of what's currently being in development, what's going to be released into the game soon, and what are the things that are coming in the future. You will see that this board is, if you follow my cursor along, the little wiggling thing in the middle, the Early Access launch, the Early Access Phase 1 and the Early Access Phase 2. Early Access launch will happen this year rather sooner than later. Early Access Phase 1 is going to be released throughout the rest of this year because we do not do gigantic content updates and then after like a few months there's complete silence. All these things will be released slowly over time, but more on that once we come to Early Access Phase 1, and Phase 2 is to be announced. But let me just jump right into it. This is going to be a quick presentation. I'm just going to do a really quick, this is the feature, this is what you can expect. And then over the course of the next days, weeks, and month, we're going to release individual videos where I explain these features, show the current state of them and what they do. First one being something that you haven't seen in the alpha. Again, follow my cursor along, please. The Horde mode adventure. The Horde mode adventure and adventures in general is our replayable content. Instanced experiences where you can jump in with 5 to 6 players, most likely, still up for testing, and then you can decide, hey, we want to play it this way, that way, and you can play it again and again for special loot, for more rare resources, and things like that. Part of that is the Shield Gothkin. The Shield Gothkin is our second Gothkin type, much bigger, much tankier, a lot more bulky in the way they fight, they are slower, and that is also going to be part of the Early Access launch. Weapon part crafting, one of my absolute favorite features, and I'm going to try my best to explain it as fast as possible. So, you do not just get a sword in our game, you will get 3 parts of a sword and you can combine them yourself into one weapon. That is currently the plan. So let us say you have a wooden handle, a stone crossguard, and an iron blade. Then all of these, based on the material that they are made from, have specific stats, and you decide which of those stats you want to combine into your sword, basically. And when you're combining them, you will later also be able to add refinements, make them even more unique and more special. That way, we want to achieve that certain recipes or certain materials do not just get outranked at some point, and there is a lot more in picking your weapon than just, here's an epic sword, have fun. It is, here's an epic blade, and if you want to combine it with something that makes it more unique and adapt it better to your playstyle, you're very welcome to do so. Then, the district system. This seems abstract maybe, but to keep it very, very high level, this is a way for us to better determine which areas of the map are affected by, for example, weather, by night and day changes, how these changes affect NPC, the environment, plants, your buildings, whatever. Generally, a way for us to basically drag and drop certain areas on top of our map where we can then define different rule sets. I know, sounds abstract, incredibly important for us, and we are so happy that it finally will make it into the game. Also in the game for Early Access, currently planned at least, the interior system set. We will not release with a system that we think is fully flushed out, but we will at least give you the possibility to put down some basic furniture, chairs, chairs, tables, things that you can turn around, combine in interesting ways and make something out of them that you will enjoy, hopefully. But that system will over time get a lot better, more will be added. And yeah, the mountain biome will receive a huge rework. The mountains that you saw in the alpha are basically just something that we threw in there to have mountains. We are completely overhauling the mountains. You will soon see artwork, you'll see first screenshots. They will look a lot more interesting, and they will actually keep evolving even directly after the Early Access launch, as we might open up caves and things like that, make them more interesting, make them a high-end environment basically, or high-level environment, even though there is no direct levels, but something that is harder to navigate, not as easy to run around in naked, which was one of the alpha feedbacks. Then character creation. You might have in the alpha or in some of our screenshots already seen that we have a lot of character creation options. We have male and female characters, we have different hairstyles, you have different noses, mouths, face shapes, all of that will be in the early access release. We had it already, but it was just, there was no time to implement the feature fully. We will do that for early access. The essence system. I cannot stress enough, for game designers this is very interesting, how important this system is to us. It will in the beginning basically be something where you just get essence as a reward for doing things in game. These might involve crafting, gathering, fighting monsters, or even just doing things as mundane as jumping. But a lot of these hookups is what the system is called, where we can see, hey, you did something, you get a reward, will come into the game later. And that is essential because essence is linked to a lot of the features in the game. The skill system, for example, is linked to it. You will need essence to use certain town features. It might be involved in crafting, and so on and so forth. We will release more information on that later. The beach/Mossies biome. It might seem confusing that this is one group, but we basically group up biomes by the resources they offer. And beach and Mossies is currently kind of similar in the way that we visually treat them. You might have seen them in the alpha. There was this area with some willow trees and everything. That is called the Mossies biome, and that will be reworked completely for early access. Then, already mentioned, the skill system. Our skill system is quite complex. We will most likely do a completely separate video. What you can expect, though, is a mix of a progress-based system where once you do something, you get rewarded XP and then over time passively gain more skills. But there's also points where you can decide which route to take, where to further develop certain skills. And yeah, I'll explain more in it because it is quite complex. It is quite complex. More status effects, plain and simple, things like cold, hot. We want to have wet from rain, we want to have burning, bleeding, or poisoned. All these effects were technically already in the alpha. We just took out all the ways to get these status effects going, and we will reintroduce them, add some more, and make the survival aspect much more interesting. Marketplace/auction house. For our early access release, we are hoping to achieve all these features. The marketplace is one of the ones that we are working very hard to make possible until the date that we've chosen. Also, we're going to release that date in a while. A little while, a soon while, we will see. The marketplace will basically be a very simple auction house. You'll be able to go to Coreborn, put up an auction, other people are able to buy it, and they are also able to open up auctions. We will over time evolve that system, make it more interesting, a little more smart when it comes to determine the best prices, and get more information from it to influence the general game's economy. But we did not feel comfortable saying, hey, we'll bring it in much later. So worst case, it's going to come very soon after early access release, but we are aiming to get it in. Also aiming to get in is a hills biome rework. You might have seen the hills biome. A lot of people said, oh, this desert-like environment. That is the general idea. We still want to make it a lot more interesting. More cliffs, more resources together, make the animals more interesting and more challenging to fight. Yeah. Also, more gear variations. You see, these are a little bit chaotic in their setup as we already sorted them by an internal logic. Gear variations will mean there's a lot more gear, not only the weapon parts, but more armors. They might not visually all be super different, because that is something that might come over time as we are a small team and creating 3D assets, especially on a player character, is quite challenging. But you will have a lot more variations. We have a system where we kind of procedurally generate them, but not really. We can also explain more on that once that system comes up. Just be aware there will be more armors, more tools, and all of those things. Combat polishing, combat polishing will be something that is going to come into the game. Combat polishing is related to the biggest feedback we probably got from this alpha, which we kind of expected, as combat was something that we brought in but did not at all bring to the point where we wanted it to be, but still felt like, hey, we still want to show our idea. And thank you so much for letting us know that you like the idea of it, but you did not like how it played. And we hear you, we will change a lot, we'll do our best to make it 1,000,000 times more fun, and just flush out further the idea of an action-based system where different weapons come in, and yeah, you'll see. Then creature polishing. Related to that is just logical creature polishing. We want more creatures, more varieties of the creatures we already have, and make them more interesting to fight. You should not just be able to run away from them. They need gap closers, as that is called. Attacks where they can just follow you and catch up with you if you just try to run away. Scary creatures should be scary. They should be more interesting to fight, but also more punishing if you fight them too early, and we'll do our best to make that happen. And lastly, the town and town attack polishing. We want more ways for you to manage your town, to have authorities, at least like put roles on people so that they can have certain rights or don't have them, make votes, things like that. And also town attacks should be a lot more interesting. We will possibly give Gothkin the ability to jump over certain obstacles so that they don't just get stuck in cliffs and things yet you saw in the alpha. Make them fun, make them more engaging, and this is one of the features that will most likely evolve the most. I know we've said it before and I know it is ambitious, but our idea for town attacks is that at some point they kind of feel like instant little raid experiences on your player town where you can invite people and they happen on a regular basis and you can time them. Yes. And that was everything for the early access launch. This is what we currently plan to have in our early access. Of course, there will be smaller things like polishing, like general bug fixing that we did not mention here. So be aware, feel free to ask questions. We'll do our best. Like, for example, the death system is not on this, as it is so obvious to us that, of course, we will polish how you die in our game and how you get punished for it, because there was none of that in alpha. And yeah, that is this. Now, jumping to early access phase, I really have to hurry because Marcus originally told me to do a 5-minute one, and I was like, yeah, that's not me though. Let's go to early access phase 1. Let me say something again, and I'll keep it as short as possible for this one. We are not planning to release content in gigantic MMORPG-like updates. We have merely accepted the term MMO for our game because everyone keeps using it. We're like, yeah, I guess, okay. But we want to do something different where we are closer to what survival games do, or what some survival games do. We bring small updates from time to time, new building pieces, new recipes, new way of acquiring these. And our content will be season-based in regards to, for example, the Horde mode adventure. Every time you play it, it might be different. And every week it might be different. Different events or things might be turned on and off. And that is what events are. It's the first thing on this list. Let's jump into it. Events are something that players of Guild Wars 2 might recognize as very similar to social quests. You come into an area, there's an activity going on that you interact with, you get rewarded loot and something that you can then take to your town, for example, to interact with town attacks, or a key that you can then use in an adventure to open a chest for extra loot. They will not be in the early access release. We had to make decisions. As I said, we are an independent team. And as much as it saddens us, we have to stay close to what our original vision is and decide based on that. And events are an incredibly wonderful addition to our game, but they are not as essential to it as, for example, adventures are. Farming will sadly not make it into the early access, but will be released in phase 1. Farming meaning farming crops in the game, being able to place a seed, for example. We had prototypes for systems that are super basic. You just throw something in the soil and then you get it. And we felt like, how about now we make things that we feel like represent what we want to achieve? Something that's interesting, cool, offers content to you guys, and and we had a farming idea that we like and that we still love, and we'll bring that in rather than something that is rushed. Now, I know hearts are breaking. Fishing is the same case. We experimented, we had prototypes, we did not like them. They were too basic, not really adding to the game. So we said, let's rather make it good, bring it in phase 1 after release. And that's when it's going to come out. Again, stressing, phase 1 does not mean one day all these features pop up, but they'll slowly come in. One that saddens me very much, in one case where I'll open something so that you can actually see it. We will bring in a ranged weapon, being this one. Our ranged weapon will be a mix of a musical instrument and basically a bagpipe and a ranged gun that shoots arrows. This is the currently in work concept. It will most likely do something like this. Incredible work by our artist Aina, by the way, but huge shout out to everyone in the game design and concept team. A lot of people worked on this idea. I'm a huge fan of it. It is Too complex though. We decided, let us take a while to make this properly rather than just push it in and don't like it. You guys did not even really enjoy the first weapon as much as we want you to yet, so let's make that one nice, make that one fun, and then bring in the second weapon. The Korheim Hedonist District. This is actually as we originally planned. We want to bring in the districts of the different nations over time. The Hedonists are already in the game, but with their district will come certain specific activities to the area of Umbros and the Hedonists, recipes, festivities, things like that. We basically will open up a new part of the map of Korheim. Can't wait to do that. The third weapon type is something that will also come in Early Access Phase 1. We are already working on it. I don't want to say too much. There is the word dagger here. We will possibly bring in daggers. We have concepts for those. We do not know for sure yet. A second adventure, we are already working on it internally. I don't want to tell you too much. It will be different in the approach at generally, yeah, I don't want to give away too much. And the last one being critters, the first one, the foo roll. Generally, critters will be something, little things that run around in the world, make them more interesting. Those might be flying creatures, running creatures in different biomes. You might be able to interact with them. Maybe they'll even interact with the farming system, your town, stuff like that. But for now, we decided to push that back, focus on the creatures we have, make them more interesting to fight. And then coming to the bigger content pieces, the Early Access Phase 2 will be the Liquid Meadows map. I can already announce that the first nation update we're going to make is the Liquid Meadows. That's where the children of the source live. It will be very, very different from the first Ambros map. Ambros is almost classical fantasy, where Liquid Meadows is over the top. Things can float. There is aqua, which is like magic-like energy that can be funneled into making things happen outside of the realms of logical physics. That will be super interesting. With that comes the new building set. With that will come a new interior set. And of course also the Korheim Children of the Source District. In that update within the updates leading up to that will be mounts, for example, is something that we're discussing, something that you asked a lot about, but also more polishing. And that is maybe how I'll summarize all of this. All of these features are part of our planned updates. They will not just be, here's all of them. They will come in over time. You might even see some of them super closely after early access launch, but maybe we have technical problems, stuff doesn't go as planned, or a lot more players rush in than we expected. Then we'll manage things first and then release stuff later. But our plan is regular content updates. We will keep updating this roadmap. You will always be up to date. What's the next thing I can expect? At least in bigger terms, there will still be smaller updates. We'll iterate on systems and we'll do our best to show you that we deeply care about your feedback. Thank you so much for the feedback on the alpha. Let us know what you think about this content plan so far. Let us know if there's things that you still have questions on, where you feel like, hey, where's this? Or is this maybe not big enough just to mention, but you are working on it? Question you don't need to ask yet: when is the early access gonna happen and when is the beta gonna happen? Beta and early access will most likely be close to each other, as we'll test final features before we bring them in, polish them, and then release them. We will give you more info on that as soon as possible. Thank you for your attention. Thanks for being here with us. I think that's the most important thing. Super excited to share more of these updates in the future. Thank you and talk to you soon.